So I guess we're ready to start the game. Let's get into turn one, and we'll see what happens. We're going to have both sides go through the strategic phase, and then we're going to jump into the tactical phase, where both sides will roll initiative to see who actually starts to move their units first. So let's do that, and I'll get right back to you and show you the results of turn one. Folks, finished the first turn. It's probably a good time to mention that March Attack uses written orders. You don't see that too often in rules today, but it's good. It's really enjoyable, particularly so with solo gaming. But anyway, I should go through how that works a little bit in March Attack. Basically, the rules give examples, really, of categories of orders that you can issue to your MFs, and that stands for major formations. In March Attack, major formations represent forces like divisions or large brigades. You basically divide your army into MFs, again, which represent divisions. And it's those units, those MFs, that actually receive orders, and you have to carry them out based on that. Some of the orders that it describes in the rule book are things like attack, defend, maneuver, and so on and so forth. So you don't issue orders to specific units, you issue them to the MFs, or division-sized forces. You can change those orders during the game, and it's as simple as rolling a die and seeing if it's received and applied that turn or not, and that's how it represents delays in getting orders. Better command structures are more efficient at that. So anyway, in this case, I should go over those orders and what was carried out this turn. First of all, I went through the strategic part of the turn, and there was no changes to any orders, obviously. Nothing really is changed. But the French did gain initiative, and they went first in the tactical part of the turn. And that's where you actually move stuff and shoot and all that good stuff. And what they did is over here, the only stuff they had to take action with was these two divisions, or MFs, that were located over here. Remember, there was a French infantry division here and a Saxon division over here, which moved on in turn one from the edge where they were deployed earlier. Anyway, this French infantry division is under orders to attack, followed by defend this farm area. So once he attacks this and gains control of it, he will go into defend orders automatically, so I won't have to change his orders. They basically moved forward. Got a couple units in line, some in column, and I got 2 units in reserve back here. And right there's their divisional commander. Now the Saxons, they were also moved this turn. Their orders also, well, not also, their orders are actually to support this division. Basically what that does is it has to have at least one formed unit, which is infantry here, within 9 inches of this division over here. Basically it allows me to move these Saxons up and support the attack to take this objective. I have no further conditional orders after that, so I'm going to have to issue new orders if I do take and hold that objective. Otherwise they're going to be sitting there supporting my infantry doing nothing, assuming that I do take farm. So that's what they did. In return, the Russians, they went second. They did move their infantry that were up in this division earlier up a little bit. Their cannon laid down some fire. Totally ineffective. Didn't do anything, even though they're effective range. They tried firing at these troops over here. There was no skirmish combat, by the way, which is done during the strategic part of the turn, not the tactical. There was none of that. Troops were too far away from each other. But anyway, they did also move up this division, this second division, forward along the road. And you can see all their battalions back here. There's quite a few of them. I think there's like 7 battalions, including a battery of foot guns, which is right there. Probably should zoom in a little bit so you can see what's going on. But yeah, there they are moving up the road, and their orders are actually to defend this farm area as well. So both of these divisions, this lead Russian division and this Russian division coming up the road, both have the same orders, that is to defend the farmhouse. So they're going to get up there and hold on to that position. And the Saxons and French are marching up to meet them and try and take that farmhouse. In the meantime, the French had nothing else that they could do, move on to the table this turn. Next turn, they'll be able to move on their cavalry division, which is right there. The Russians, they also were able to move their cavalry division, which, if you remember, the cuirassiers moved on from this edge right here, and they're now located here. There's their commander, and their hussar regiments are located up here, the two hussars. And their orders are basically to defend, I believe, if I remember correctly. So this cavalry division of Russians are ordered to defend this ridge line, which is basically this objective. And they've moved up with their hussars up there, taking a look at the advancing Saxons, seeing if there's anything vulnerable they can attack real quick. Who knows? But yeah, next turn we'll see the French hussars and dragoons coming onto the board, so we'll see what happens. Okay, folks, so there's lots of stuff coming on the board in turn 2. Stay tuned. Finish turn 2. Let's see what's going on. Started off with the strategic part of the phase, of the turn actually. No changes in the orders. There was some skirmish combat down here, which was ineffective. Basically, the two units of French over here, they got the French line, and then the Saxons, they had, I think they beat the skirmish combat value of the Russians up here by 3 or 4 points. And unfortunately, with the die roll, they caused one hit, which could not be allocated to the Russians because they were all in cover. So that did nothing. Besides that, we went right into the initiative, and the Russians got the roll, and they decided to go first. They were the active player. First thing they did is they moved up this division of grenadiers up to this ridge with defend orders on this ridge. So they are ordered to defend this ridge from the French attacks. They have some deployed guns there. Limbered, actually, not deployed. Down here, the cavalry, if you remember, are still in a position of defending this objective. They did have a hussar regiment right here, if you remember. I missed an opportunity to actually charge during my normal movement this unit of limbered Saxon artillery. I did miss that. I was so caught up in moving the troops over by this farm area that I just missed it. So, zoom in there. Right there. So I did the next best thing, and I just basically moved him within 5 inches or so, so that I'd be able to opportunity charge this Saxon battery if it decided to unlimber. Yeah, so that was the next best thing I could do. As the Saxons, what I chose to do is move up a battalion to kind of support the battery, maybe provoke opportunity charge from the hussars. Didn't work. I basically rolled randomly to see if the hussars would charge them. They didn't, so they held their position. Net effect of that was that I basically left the Saxon battery in place, limbered. They didn't do anything. I just don't want to be charged by those hussars, really, especially when the French cavalry have just arrived. They moved on to the board, all 4 of their regiments. They got dragoons in the back, and they're led by 3 regiments of hussars. So they have orders to attack the enemy cavalry, so that should be interesting. The French are going to seek out the enemy cavalry and see if they can wipe them out. Let's see, down here by the farmhouse, let's take a little look at this. There, that should be a little bit better. Now you can see what's going on here. Anyway, up at the farmhouse, the Russians went first, of course. They basically moved their units closer into cover along these hedges. This unit didn't get all the way to the hedge, which is unfortunate, because when the French and Saxons moved, they did get to the hedge line, and they were able to put down a really close-range volley on those Russians. Quite devastating. As you can see, they are down to 3 CV, the Russians, right there. If you can see that. Yeah, there it is. And those dice on there, that's the current CV values of the units. So yeah, there was a lot of fighting going on here, a lot of musketry. No charges or anything. This Russian gun has been putting down some fire on these light infantry. Got them knocked down to 3 CV at this point. Yeah, that's the situation, folks. And bounce out here, and you can see this situation over here again, where the Russian hussars are threatening the Saxon position here. And of course, the Saxons have some troops in reserve, kind of a second wave back here, and so do the French. I won't go into the details of the units, but I do know that these lead units here for the French are both conscripts. These units of Saxons, these 3 Saxon units, frontline units, are regulars. These guys are conscripts down here, these guys are regulars, and these are conscripts, blah, blah, blah. Just so you know that there's actually more than just one troop grade going on here in this battle. I got regulars and conscripts all over the place, and some elites as well. So, yeah, that's the situation, folks. The next turn we'll see the French bring on their 1st and 2nd divisions of infantry. We'll see what their orders are and what they're going to do. So, wait for turn 3 coming, folks. Finish turn 3, and Davout's divisions, infantry divisions 1 and 2, have both arrived, and I'll get into that in a second. During the strategic phase of the turn, there was no order changes. There was no morale tests required for the MFs. There was some skirmish combat down at the farm, and I'll get into that in a second. And that was about it. As far as initiative, which is next, the Russians won the die roll for initiative, and they decided to go first. And what they did is they advanced this division. The lead battalions of grenadiers advanced to the top of the heights along with their battery of artillery, which unlimbered, and is now in a position to issue fire, which it did during the turn, and did put some casualties on one of these advancing columns of Devoe's 1st division. So that's about the only casualties going on there. Now, again, the French did come onto the table this turn, and this 1st division has orders to attack these heights. So heights number 1 will be their objective. The 2nd Infantry Division, which is approaching this way over here, again, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 battalions of infantry with supporting artillery. They came on with the objective of attacking and taking the other part of those heights, which is over here. And that would be heights number 2, which is currently being fought over by cavalry, and I'll get into that in a second. So yeah, that's the action over here. There's no real combat yet. We'll see how well the Grenadiers can do holding this position, though. Now if we come over towards the center, if you remember the Russian cavalry, their orders are to hold and defend this part of the heights, this 2nd objective. And they seem to be doing pretty good. Earlier in the previous turn, if you remember, one of the Hussar regiments of the Russians did move up here to this location and was trying to get in a position to assault this battery of guns by the Saxons, which it never did. Unfortunately, the French did come in, and their cavalry, which was over here, did manage to charge that unit of Hussars in the rear. This Hussar regiment right here actually charged. And there was a melee, and unfortunately for the Russians, their cavalry was defeated. And there they are right there running for their lives. The remainder of their division, the Russians, is located right here. They got some cuirassiers that have been committed to the fray, supported by some other Hussars which have taken damage from melees that have happened. And there's a 2nd unit of cuirassiers right here. And the 4th one, of course, is broken, their 4th regiment. So yeah, the Russians lost a unit from their cavalry. And all this was due to the cavalry over here, the French cavalry coming in. Basically, their orders, the French orders, are to attack the Russian cavalry. And they're doing pretty good at it so far. Considered quality-wise, I think they're outdone. I think the Russians have 2 regiments of cuirassiers, which is far superior to the best the French cavalry have right now, which is their dragoons, which are positioned back here. No, they're up here on the hill. Get a picture of them right there. So yeah, the Russian Hussars were charged in rear, and that was the end of them. There was some more cavalry fighting right here. The French Hussars charged forward and were threw this unit of Hussars back, but the Russians counterattacked with some cuirassiers, supported by this previously defeated Hussar unit, and they were able to push back the French Hussars, which are right here at this point, and they are badly mauled. They only have 1 CV left, so 1 more and they're broken. Those little white markers, incidentally, you can just barely see them. There's one right here, and there's one back here. they indicate disorder. Those units are disordered, so they're very vulnerable in close combat at this point. So yeah, the cavalry melee continues. It still can go either way. The Russians are holding on to the heights with their cavalry, and the French cavalry are returning the favor and attacking the enemy cavalry. So we'll see what happens in the next turn with that. Over here on the far right for the Russians, there's quite a bit going on, as you'd expect. Both sides have 2 divisions apiece trying to attack and hold this farm area. As you can see, there's plenty of Russian units maneuvering into position here. You can see them pretty much all over. It's some musketeers with their guns, and they're deploying in the fields. Those are 3 infantry regiments for the Russians. They're occupying the field quite well. They also hold a position on the road, and right back here they have another unit heading up in column. And over here they got troops deployed in line, and on the far side they have another unit deployed in line, as well as right here. So this is like a kill zone that the Russians have set up. And the French did break through over here. That's one of their units in column. And right here is a shattered unit of Russian infantry. They were defeated by this unit up here and this unit issuing fire from the flank. And this unit was broken. They're about to be removed from the tabletop. I just got them sitting there for the moment. Going back this way, we get a good view of the approaching French and Saxon troops. You can see they're approaching up the road. The Saxons have 2 columns of infantry. Basically, these 2 columns are engaging each other in musketry. Neither one has got an advantage at this point. The Saxons are approaching here. They did manage to take out this artillery battery, foot guns, that the Russians were holding that position with. So this gun was destroyed. The Saxons took it out. This unit of French infantry, light infantry, has fallen back. They're down to 2 CV left, so they're all but useless. And you can see they're also disordered. There's that white marker. Yeah, and the Saxons up on the hill, they have their cannon still firing away. They're not doing much. The Russians were wise enough to actually deploy in line, so they're not taking too much damage from this Saxon battery of guns. Over here, this unit right here of Saxon infantry was defeated, was holding this line right here and fighting against this unit with musketry, and it was defeated. So it is also broken. So yeah, the French have lost 1 unit of Saxon infantry. The Russians have lost a unit of hussars, as well as a battery of guns, and also a battalion of infantry up here in the field. So those are the losses so far in turn 3, and it's looking bloody. This farm area is really up in the air. Not sure who's going to take this position. It's too early to tell, actually. Both sides are heavily engaged here. I think it might come down to who gets this objective number 2, this area right here, these heights. At the moment, both sides is just cavalry. It's just nothing but cavalry fighting for dominance here. It'll be interesting to see the results of this, because what happens here, who wins this area, is going to have dominance with the cavalry. And where those cavalry go to next will probably determine what happens either at the farm or up here on the heights, where the Russians are digging in, basically. All right, folks, so that's turn 3. Those are the casualty counts so far. So far, it can go either way. It's too early to tell who's got the advantage. But with Davout's 1st and 2nd divisions moving into position, about to get ready to assault the heights, we'll see what happens. Interesting, folks. Next turn, coming up, finish turn 4. Let's see what's going on. As you can see, the heights have been vacated temporarily, and I'll get into that in a second. During the strategic phase of the turn, there was some order changing. Tuchkov issued new orders to the, I believe it's the 1st Division, one that was coming up this road to help defend the village, with like 6 battalions, and they're mostly conscripts. They just got additional orders successfully carried down to them, and that was to also defend this area as well. So not only are the Russian cavalry defending this heights, but so also is the 1st Musketeer Division in the Russian army. But of course, they're still under orders to defend the farm. So they're going to be kind of stretched a little bit here as they're defending two objectives on the battlefield. That 1st Musketeer Division. We'll see how well they do with that. And yeah, Tuchkov got his orders successfully handed down, so no delays in that. This should be a pretty interesting area of the battlefield. You got Davout's 2nd Infantry Division coming up here to capture this. And they're supported basically by all the French cavalry. The Cavalry Division, which has orders to attack the Russian cavalry. And defending this, of course, is the Russian cavalry, which are about to get some help from the Russian Musketeer Division coming up from this direction down here. And you can see they already have some battalions, a battery of guns, another battalion over here in column, making their way up in this location to try and defend this spot. Other than that, the strategic phase, there was some skirmish activity here, but there's not much, a lot of skirmishers going involved here. You got Saxons and you've got the Russians, and none of them are well known for the use of skirmishers, at least effectively. The French troops down here are pretty lacking in skirmishers as well, so there's not a heck of a lot in terms of skirmish combat. So there was nothing, no losses were taken down there for that. Meanwhile, up here, we do have some action going on. Initiative went to the French this time, and they decided to go first. And one of the first things they did is start moving up their infantry divisions up the slopes of the heights, the main one being right here. Interesting that the French did send up 2 battalions from their 2nd wave over here on the flank, still in column. And unfortunately, one of those battalions did get caught by this battery of guns. Put some casualties on them as they advanced up the hill. But otherwise, the French are advancing in line in their 1st wave here. They're supported by their cannons, taking some shots, and they did do some damage to one of these battalions of grenadiers. The Russians, of course, pulled off the hill. Not too sure why they occupied it to begin with. Maybe to lure them forward, I don't know. See what the French were going to do. But they did smartly take cover behind the ridge now, and they're out of line of sight from the French guns. We'll see what happens there. Over on this side, of course, the other division of French has moved up. We just covered that as well. There was some more cavalry action here as the cuirassiers for the Russians did charge the hussars that were here and forced them to retire all the way back here. They're down 1 CV left, and they're disordered. This unit of hussars right here behind the woods also has only 1 CV remaining. So the French are getting whittled down here quite bad. The only effective cavalry units they have at the moment are these 2 that are straddling this ridge over here. They have the dragoons over here, which are down to 3 CV, and a full-strength unit of hussars covering their flank. And that guy right there is their division commander. And again, the orders of the French cavalry is to attack and basically destroy the Russian cavalry, but it doesn't seem to be too effective at the moment. I got 2 cuirassiers facing them, some hussars, and in the previous turn, one of the hussar regiments for the Russians was destroyed. This one, in fact, is down only 2 CV, so they're not in the best of shape either. But these cuirassiers are something for the French to kind of worry about. So there's kind of a stalemate here. And in fact, if we do take a look at the farm area of the battlefield, where the fighting has been the most intense from the very beginning, it kind of slowed down as well. No more losses in units at the moment, but let's see what happened over here. Right here we got the 1st Division did actually have to take a major formation morale check. If you remember, that division was the one that was originally up here. They had 3 battalions and guns and a battery of guns. They were the ones originally up here, so it was a very fragile division under strength. But they did pass their morale check, so they're still hanging in there. They're carrying on, folks. And I believe if I look close, I could see where their units are. The original units from that division. There's one right here. Okay. And I believe the second one is, I think that's the one right there. Yeah, so it's this one and this one. This one's conscripts and this one's regular. I believe that's what it is. The rest of these units are from the Russian division that has been coming up this road, which I believe is the 2nd Division. So that's the situation. The French column that was up here in the field did manage to get itself around, passed a valor test, change formation within the threat zone of these Russian infantry. It did so, and it's in a position now where it's in line and facing the enemy. Yeah, it's pretty intricate in the details, the tactical nuances going on here. I like that part of this game. You know, it's still got some tactical feel to it, some little decision-making things here and there. It's not all just grand decisions, which is fun. But so far, that's the situation over here. It's kind of quieted down a little bit. Both sides have taken a lot of casualties. I think the Russians might have an edge, especially with the reinforcements coming up to help them out. It's going to make a big difference, I think. So, yeah. So, folks, that's turn 4. That's the situation. I'm going to go into turn 5 next. I am playing this solo. It should be interesting to see what happens, especially up here with the cavalry going at each other. And what are the grenadiers going to do over here on the ridge? We shall see. Okay, folks, turn 5 is coming up. Stay tuned.